You are listening to the Daily Homily for Magdala in the Holy Land.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Herod the tetrarch heard about all that was happening, and he was greatly perplexed, because some were saying John has been raised from the dead. Others were saying Elijah has appeared. Still others, one of the ancient prophets has arisen. But Herod said, John I beheaded. Who then is this about whom I hear such things? And he kept trying to see him. The Gospel of the Lord. Here we have the results of the opinion polls and how people are affected by them, what opinions exist about Jesus. And Herod wants to see Jesus. But Herod maybe needed to have a little bit more from the first reading of the book of Ecclesiastes, the opening lines. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. It repeats it twice. Vanity of vanities says coelette, vanity of vanities, all things are vanity. So it's mentioned, vanity is mentioned 5 times, and there are only about 5 more words in that sentence. So it dominates this idea of vanity. I will tell you a little personal happening this morning that came to mind when I was commenting on these verses. I remembered August 1974. It was Sunday. It was the first Sunday of August. And I don't remember anything else from the readings of that day, but I remember this reading. And I was going to Mass in the Cathedral of Galway, about 20 miles from my home, with a seminarian from our community. I was not yet a member. I was going to be entering in September, about 5 weeks later on. And I was accompanying this brother to find a little accommodation, which we found in a falling down Franciscan monastery eventually. That same Sunday, we checked a whole swath of Connemara, this beautiful area of Western Galway, north of Galway Bay. And what I remember is that I was in the cathedral, and I never forgot that this was the reading. And the Bishop of Galway was celebrating the Mass, Bishop Brown at that time. And I'm not sure how that stuck in my mind. And if I made too much out of it now, I remembered it this morning because the reading came today. What's the chance that Thursday of the 25th week of the year would fall on the 26th of September? Well, there's a relative chance that it would fall on it, but it's at least 1 in 7, or maybe 1 in 14 that it would fall on this day. And just to have that reminder on the 48th anniversary of my profession, 2 years after entering the congregation, I just was tickled by that. And there's lots of things that tickle us in life, little blessings we have in our day, maybe the color of your hair, maybe your teeth that didn't fall out yet, and so many little things we can be proud of and vain about. We can be vain about these things. What does vain mean? Vanity of vanities. Which color eyebrows, which, just speaking to the girls, which type of power muscles, all the things of life that we pride ourselves on, the speed, smarter than the other one. And we pride ourselves on these things, and they're all vanity. How old we live, how young we die, what does it matter? And in the palaces of the kings and the court life of all the parties they have, and the fancy life and the costumes they have, and the dreams of people to get to see the king, and all these things, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. And if you boil it down and try to figure out what is it that I really need for life, what will last? And we're living in a very blessed circumstance, all of us here in the Holy Land, and just from the perspective of antiquity. And we walk on streets that are thousands of years old, and most of those buildings didn't exist thousands of years ago. And we know a little bit about archaeology because we see the sites and people explain them for us. And the archaeology is one of the best evidences of how life passes, of how everything disappears. We are so happy when they discovered now in tetrarch near the Sea of Galilee, where they were also excavating these last 2 weeks again, but there are about 5 or 6 years of excavations there, and they found this medallion mosaic from a Byzantine church mentioning the chief of the apostles, Peter. It was Peter's house in Bethsaida, a different Bethsaida than was earlier identified about 1.5 kilometers north of there. And the discovery, the joy of finding Peter's house in Bethsaida, where he and Andrew grew up, and how that all disappeared. And there was a beautiful Byzantine church there. So when you see ruins of archaeology, you go around, let's say down by the city of David, and you see all that, and you think of all the glory and all the glamour, and the same all over the world. And between earthquakes and wars and just pure weather erosion, things just crumble, and our own bodies crumble much faster than buildings most of the time. And we are so vain about so many things and so worried about this thing and so about that thing. Vanity, vanity is all is vanity. And we have this wonderful line in the Psalm 90 it is today. And the very first verse is chosen for the response. In every age, O Lord, you have been our refuge. That's something that will never change. In every age, O Lord, you have been our refuge. Imagine the amount of thought we put into so many externals, and they all have their place, but just that place. And some people get into a huge crisis over a small little thing that changes anyway, like a flower withers in a day. And what's the difference between a day and 1,000 days and 10,000 days? It goes so fast. What a blessing to be able to focus on the essential in every age. The age of Herod, the age of Methuselah, of Abraham, of Alexander the Great, of Julius Caesar, of Napoleon, all the ones that were through here, Kaiser Wilhelm. Imagine the parties there were when he visited Jerusalem 120 years ago. You know, it's amazing the importance we give to little things, and sometimes the lack of importance we give to the biggest things. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Amazing wisdom to take to heart. And poor Herod, he wants to see Jesus, but he has been so busy with trivia, with the joys of a minute, and every minute has its joys that completely absorb his soul, his mind, his ambitions, his desires, his fears, his passions, and he can't see Jesus. And Jesus comes to us today in the poor, in a sad person in our family, in a little upset and disappointment. And Jesus is there to be able to see Jesus despite and through and in all the trivia.
Thank you for joining us today. If you want to learn more about Magdala, follow us on YouTube and on Facebook.